Imagine walking down the street, and suddenly, someone sneezes. You'd probably say, "Bless you," right? But in the past, that sneeze could have been seen as a sign of something far more sinister. Smell, something we experience every day, was once considered dangerous, even deadly. In this video, we are diving into the fascinating history of why our noses were once a source of fear, and how our understanding of smell has evolved over time. Stick around, because you might just start seeing and smelling the world in a whole new way. The miasma theory's origins trace back to ancient civilizations, where people observed that foul odors often accompanied disease. They noticed that illnesses seemed to spread in areas with unpleasant smells, like swamps or crowded cities. This observation led to the belief that diseases were caused by these bad smells, which were thought to be filled with tiny, invisible particles. These particles were called miasmas, a term derived from the Greek word for pollution. People believed that these miasmas were like a poisonous gas, and inhaling them could make you sick. This idea was particularly prevalent during the Middle Ages in Europe. Cities were often dirty and crowded, with poor sanitation. The streets were filled with waste, and people didn't understand the connection between cleanliness and health. As a result, the air was often thick with unpleasant smells. When diseases like the Black Death or cholera broke out, people assumed it was because of these foul odors. The miasma theory wasn't just a random guess. It was based on observable patterns. For instance, diseases often spread more quickly in densely populated areas with poor ventilation. These places had strong, unpleasant smells. In contrast, rural areas with fresh air and fewer people seemed to have lower rates of disease. This seemed to confirm the theory. People also noticed that certain smells, like those from flowers or incense, could mask the bad odors and might even protect against illness. This led to the use of strong perfumes and aromatic herbs to ward off disease. The theory also influenced medical practices. Doctors would often prescribe treatments that focused on eliminating bad smells. For example, they might recommend burning aromatic herbs or using strong-smelling ointments. People also carried around small pouches filled with fragrant spices or herbs. These were called pomanders. The idea was that the pleasant smell would protect them from the miasmas. Even public health measures were based on this theory. Cities would sometimes order streets to be cleaned or waste to be removed to reduce the bad smells and, they hoped, the spread of disease. The human sense of smell is remarkably sensitive, capable of detecting a vast array of scents. This sensitivity, however, has historically made smell an invisible threat. People often fear what they cannot see, and the inability to visualize the source of a smell can trigger anxiety. This fear is not entirely irrational. Many harmful substances, from toxic gases to biological contaminants, are odorless. Yet, the presence of a strong or unusual smell can signal danger, even when the actual threat is unseen. Consider the case of carbon monoxide, a colorless, odorless gas that can be deadly. While it itself lacks a smell, people often associate the danger of gas leaks with the rotten egg smell of added mercaptan. This association highlights how smell can become a stand-in for unseen threats. Similarly, the fear of unseen contamination is evident in public health crises. During outbreaks of diseases like cholera, the miasma theory suggested that foul smells caused illness. Though this theory was eventually debunked, it underscores the deep-seated fear of invisible, smell-related dangers. The fear of unseen contamination also manifests in everyday life. People often avoid certain areas or situations because of unpleasant smells, even if the actual source of the odor is harmless. For example, the smell of garbage might make someone avoid a particular alley, even if the garbage is contained and poses no real threat. This reaction is rooted in the brain's limbic system, which processes smells and triggers emotional responses. The brain associates certain smells with danger, even when the threat is not immediately apparent. Moreover, the fear of unseen contamination extends to personal hygiene and cleanliness. People often use scented products to mask odors, not just for aesthetic reasons but also to alleviate the anxiety caused by unknown smells. This practice is seen in the widespread use of air fresheners, perfumes, and deodorants. The desire to eliminate or cover up smells reflects a deep-seated fear of the invisible and the unknown. In this way, smell serves as a powerful, albeit sometimes misleading, indicator of potential danger. In the 19th century, cities were growing rapidly, and sanitation was often poor. People lived in close quarters, and waste was not properly managed. This led to a constant, overwhelming stench that hung over urban areas. The smell was so pervasive that it became a symbol of the filth and disease that plagued these cities. The connection between bad odors and illness was not yet fully understood, but people could see the correlation. The worse the smell, the more likely people were to get sick. This association was so strong that the stench itself was often blamed for causing disease. The fear of disease was not unfounded. During this time, outbreaks of cholera, typhoid, and other waterborne illnesses were common. These diseases were often spread through contaminated water and poor sanitation. The smell of rotting waste and decaying organic matter was a constant reminder of the unsanitary conditions. People believed that the stench was a sign of the presence of these diseases. The worse the smell, the more dangerous the area was thought to be. This belief was so widespread that it influenced urban planning and public health policies. The association of stench with death and plague was not just a superstition. It was based on a real understanding of the connection between filth and disease. However, the exact mechanisms were not yet known. People did not understand that it was the bacteria and viruses in the waste that caused illness. Instead, they believed that the bad air, or miasma, was the cause. This belief led to the development of public health measures aimed at improving sanitation and reducing the stench. These measures included the construction of sewers, the regulation of waste disposal, and the improvement of living conditions. The fear of the stench was so great that it influenced the way people lived their lives. People avoided certain areas of the city because of the smell. They believed that these areas were more likely to be the source of disease. This fear was not just limited to the lower classes. Even the wealthy were concerned about the stench and the diseases it was thought to cause. This led to the development of new technologies and practices aimed at reducing the smell. These included the use of perfumes, the development of better ventilation systems, and the improvement of waste management practices. The fear of the stench was a powerful motivator for change. In the past, medical professionals held significant sway over public perception, and their views on smell were no exception. Doctors often reinforced the idea that certain smells were dangerous, linking them to disease and decay. This was partly due to the limited understanding of germs and how illnesses spread. Many physicians believed that foul odors were a sign of sickness, and that inhaling these smells could make you ill. They warned patients about the dangers of bad smells, creating a climate of fear around certain aromas. One prominent example is the miasma theory, which was widely accepted by doctors for centuries. This theory suggested that diseases were caused by noxious fumes, or miasmas, that arose from decaying organic matter. Physicians advised people to avoid areas with strong, unpleasant smells, as they were thought to be breeding grounds for illness. This belief led to practices like burning aromatic herbs and spices to mask bad odors, in an attempt to ward off disease. Doctors also recommended that patients live in well-ventilated areas to avoid inhaling these dangerous fumes. The influence of medical authority extended to public health measures as well. Cities were encouraged to improve sanitation and cleanliness to eliminate sources of bad smells. Doctors played a key role in advocating for these changes, as they believed that reducing foul odors would lead to healthier populations. This focus on smell as an indicator of health and danger persisted for many years, even as medical knowledge evolved. The legacy of these beliefs can still be seen today in the importance placed on cleanliness and freshness in both personal and public spaces. In the past, the sense of smell was deeply intertwined with social class perceptions. Odors, particularly those associated with poverty, were often linked to moral decay and used to stigmatize lower-class individuals. This connection was not merely about hygiene. It was a way to reinforce social hierarchies and justify the marginalization of certain groups. The idea was that if someone smelled bad, they must also be morally corrupt or lazy. This belief persisted for a long time and had real consequences for those who were already struggling. The association between odors and poverty was often exaggerated and used to create a divide between the classes. For example, the smell of sweat, which is a natural bodily function, was often equated with dirtiness and moral failing. This was particularly true for those who worked in physically demanding jobs, such as laborious or factory workers. Their sweat was seen as a sign of their lower status and lack of refinement. In contrast, the sense associated with the upper classes, such as perfume or expensive soap, was seen as a sign of virtue and good breeding. This created a false dichotomy where smell was used to judge a person's character and worth. Moreover, the link between odors and moral decay was often used to justify social policies that targeted the poor. For instance, during the 19th century, public health campaigns often focused on the stench of the poor as a way to justify interventions like slum clearances or the construction of sewers. These campaigns were often framed as efforts to improve public health, but they also served to reinforce the idea that the poor were responsible for their own misery. This narrative was used to deflect attention from the structural issues that contributed to poverty, such as lack of access to education or employment opportunities. The stigma around odors and poverty also had a profound impact on the lives of those who were already marginalized. For example, the smell of certain foods or spices, which were often associated with immigrant communities, was used to mark them as other and justify their exclusion. This was particularly true in the United States, where the smell of foods like garlic or curry was often used to stigmatize Italian or Asian immigrants. This stigma was not just about smell, it was about power and the ability to define what was considered normal or acceptable. The association between odors and moral decay was a powerful tool for reinforcing social hierarchies and justifying the exclusion of certain groups. In the past, people believed that bad smells could carry diseases. This idea led to significant changes in public behavior, particularly the use of perfumes and coverings as a form of protection. Perfumes were not just for smelling nice, they were seen as a shield against illness. People would douse themselves in strong scents, thinking it would ward off harmful vapors or miasmas, which were thought to cause sickness. The heavier the perfume, the better the protection. This practice was common among all social classes, from royalty to peasants. Even public spaces like theaters and churches were filled with strong fragrances to keep the bad air at bay. Coverings also played a crucial role in this protective behavior. People would wear masks, often filled with sweet-smelling herbs or spices, to filter out the bad smells. These masks were not just for show, they were a serious attempt to stay healthy. In some cases, people would carry pomanders, which are small, perfumed balls, to hold up to their noses when passing through areas they believed to be particularly foul. This was especially common during times of plague or other widespread illnesses. The idea was that the pleasant smell would overpower the bad, keeping the disease at bay. The use of perfumes and coverings was not just a personal choice, it was a social norm. Public gatherings often involved a collective effort to mask unpleasant odors. For example, during religious ceremonies, incense was burned to purify the air and create a pleasant atmosphere. In homes, people would place bowls of vinegar or other strong-smelling substances to absorb bad odors. This practice was so widespread that it became a part of daily life, influencing everything from fashion to architecture. Buildings were designed with more windows to allow for better ventilation, and clothing styles often included layers to help trap and contain personal scents. Over time, the belief in the danger of bad smells faded as scientific understanding improved. However, the legacy of these practices can still be seen today. The use of air fresheners, scented candles, and even the popularity of strong perfumes can be traced back to these historical practices. While we now know that bad smells don't cause diseases, the desire to create pleasant environments remains. The use of perfumes and coverings as protection may seem outdated, but the underlying human need for comfort and safety is timeless. During the 19th century, the understanding of disease and its transmission underwent a significant shift. Before the germ theory of disease gained widespread acceptance, people often relied on their senses to assess their environment's safety. Smell played a crucial role in this assessment. Foul odors were commonly associated with illness, and it was believed that bad smells, or miasmas, were responsible for spreading diseases like cholera and the Black Death. This miasma theory dominated medical thought for centuries, influencing public health measures and personal hygiene practices. The transition from smell-based understanding to germ-based understanding began with the work of scientists like Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch. They demonstrated that diseases were caused by microscopic organisms, not by bad air or miasmas. Pasteur's experiments with fermentation and Koch's postulates provided compelling evidence for the germ theory. This shift was not immediate, however. Many people, including some medical professionals, were skeptical of the new theory. The idea that invisible organisms could cause disease was difficult to accept, especially when it contradicted long-held beliefs about the role of smell in health. One of the key factors that helped the germ theory gain acceptance was the development of better microscopes. These tools allowed scientists to observe and study microorganisms more closely. They could see the tiny organisms that cause diseases, making the germ theory more tangible and believable. Additionally, the success of antiseptic techniques in surgery and the improvement of public health measures, such as clean water and sanitation, provided practical evidence for the germ theory. These successes showed that controlling germs could prevent disease, which was a significant shift from the previous focus on controlling bad smells. The shift from smell to germ-based understanding also had profound implications for public health policies. Instead of focusing on masking or eliminating bad odors, efforts were directed towards identifying and controlling the sources of germs. This led to the development of vaccines, antibiotics, and other medical treatments that targeted specific pathogens. It also led to improvements in sanitation and hygiene practices, such as hand washing and proper waste disposal. These changes have had a lasting impact on public health, significantly reducing the incidence of many infectious diseases. The fear of smell, or phresiophobia, has deep roots in historical beliefs that continue to influence modern reactions. In medieval Europe, foul odors were often associated with disease and death. This belief was so strong that people carried flowers or herbs to mask unpleasant smells, thinking it would protect them from illness. Even today, the lingering cultural fear of bad smells persists. For instance, people might avoid certain neighborhoods or public spaces because of the perceived association between bad smells and crime or poverty. This fear is not just about hygiene, it's about deep-seated cultural beliefs that have been passed down through generations. In many cultures, smell is linked to morality and social status. The idea that bad smells indicate bad character or poor upbringing is still prevalent. This is why people might judge others based on their personal hygiene or the cleanliness of their surroundings. For example, someone might assume that a person who smells bad is also lazy or immoral. This judgment is rooted in historical beliefs that associated bad smells with sin and corruption. Even in modern workplaces, there are unspoken rules about personal hygiene and the use of strong perfumes or colognes. These rules are often based on the lingering cultural fear of bad smells and the association with negative qualities. The fear of smell also manifests in modern reactions to certain industries and professions. For example, waste management workers or those in the fishing industry often face stigma because of the association with bad smells. This stigma is rooted in historical beliefs that associated these professions with dirt and disease. Even today, people might avoid certain jobs or industries because of the perceived association with bad smells. This fear is not just about hygiene, it's about deep-seated cultural beliefs that have been passed down through generations. The lingering cultural fear of smell continues to influence modern reactions and behaviors in subtle but significant ways. So there you have it, folks. Smell, once feared and misunderstood, has come a long way from being considered a dangerous force to something we now enjoy and even rely on in our daily lives. From the ancient beliefs that bad smells could cause disease to the modern science that tells us our noses are powerful tools, it's been quite a journey. We've explored how our ancestors tried to ward off evil spirits with sweet-smelling herbs, and how they used strong scents to mask the stench of cities that were, well, less than pleasant. We've also seen how our understanding of smell has evolved, and how it plays a crucial role in our health and well-being. But here's the thing, our sense of smell is still full of mysteries. Scientists are still uncovering new ways that smell affects us, from influencing our moods to even changing the way we remember things. And who knows what we'll discover next? Maybe one day, we'll find out that smell can do things we never even imagined. So, what can you do with this newfound knowledge? Well, for starters, you can appreciate your sense of smell a little more. Take a moment to enjoy the aroma of your morning coffee, or the fresh scent of cut grass. And next time you're at the store, maybe pick up a new scent to try. Who knows, it might just brighten your day. And if you're curious to learn more about the fascinating world of smell, stay tuned. We've got plenty more to explore, from the science behind our favorite scents to the history of perfumery. So, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue this aromatic adventure together. Until next time, keep sniffing the air. You never know what you might discover.